From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Tonight, community leaders and state politicians remember the life of Ed Pastor, Arizona's first Mexican-American elected congressman. And One Gilbert Company's innovative alternative that could replace all plastic packaging in grocery stores, and why experts say this is a realistic possibility. Plus, Phoenix mayoral candidates campaign against each other in the runoff, but they both share one mission: to educate voters.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Bryce Newberry.
And I'm Jennifer Alvarez. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're remembering the life of retired Congressman Ed Pastor. He passed away yesterday at the age of 75 from a heart attack. 27 years ago, he became the first Mexican-American member of Congress to represent Arizona. Now, he'll be remembered as a Hispanic trailblazer who helped others in public service.
Very good man, very smart man.
A champion for many.
We'll really miss him.
He grew up in a mining town, was a first-generation college student, and had no intention of becoming a political figure. That all changed when Ed Pastor's brother, who was a political figure, passed away, and he decided to carry on his brother's causes. Elisa de la Barra worked with Pastor as his district director. She says he paved the way for Arizona Latinos to serve in office.
When you are a trailblazer, as he was, when you are a role model in the capacity that he was, it makes you see yourself in those positions. It makes you understand that it is achievable, and there is an example, and a good example, of what can be accomplished.
And he didn't just pave the way for future politicians, but took the time to mentor the youth as well. Vara says that his mentorship, advocacy, and initiatives, like his light rail project in Phoenix, won't be forgotten, but that really it's the little things that people will remember him by the most.
He'd leave us these stacks of little papers that said, you know, Maria so-and-so needs to check on her Social Security check. It was reduced and she doesn't know why. Or Juan such and such, you know, his daughter needs help. And months later, months, not days, but months later, he'd always say, did you take care of Maria? Did you call Juan? That, to me, was very special because it really spoke to his serving his constituents from his heart, not just from the political side.
Mary Rose Wilcox, who calls Pastor a mentor, blazed her own trail, becoming the first Hispanic woman on both the Phoenix City Council and the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors.
When I became a city councilwoman and he was at the county, I had a little bit of a hard time because I was a woman, I was the first Hispanic, and Ed just really mentored me, helped me figure out how to really govern.
But what she remembers most is that he was a man of the people who didn't forget his roots.
Ed would come into my restaurant, talk to all the tables in the room, and everybody would say, hey, Ed Pastor, he's a really good guy. Because he didn't make you feel that he was a big shot congressman. He made you feel like he was Ed, and you were important to him.
Ed Pastor is survived by his wife, Verma, 2 daughters, and 4 grandchildren.
The man who succeeded Pastor in Congress, District 7 Representative Ruben Gallego, called Pastor a legend, a trailblazer, and a tireless advocate for Arizonans. In a statement, Gallego wrote, Congressman Pastor dedicated his career to protecting the civil rights of every American and making the American dream accessible to everyone, including the most vulnerable in our society. His legacy will live on in the transportation projects he championed, the legislation he authored, the working families he helped, and a generation he inspired. Reporter Charlene Santiago is tracking more reaction tonight in Washington.
Ed was just one of those really go-to persons. He was really a good person to work with.
A congressional leader who worked across the aisle and always thinking about his commitment to his constituents.
I think my accomplishments were I help individuals.
And his help included mentoring his fellow Arizona representatives.
He was very helpful to me, was a great mentor to me coming into this Congress when I did.
In 2014, Cronkite News sat down with Pastor after he announced his retirement. And as he looked back at his journey in Washington, Pastor said serving others was his greatest commitment.
If you go to a family whose dad was not deported, that was a great accomplishment. The thousands of people that I helped become citizens, that's a great accomplishment.
In the eyes of New York Congresswoman Nidia Velázquez, what stood out the most about her former colleague was that he was willing to challenge the norm.
A Latino who represented not only his district, but that worked very hard to push forward a progressive agenda when that was unpopular.
Pastor served as chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus from 1994 to 1996, but his dedication went beyond his leadership in the caucus.
He was a friend who worked closely with me when I was the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus in passing, in getting Sonia Sotomayor's support to the Supreme Court.
His friends and colleagues say Pastor succeeded because he was also willing to work across the aisle, something they say is lacking in Washington.
You can't get things done by attacking other members. You have to work together to get things done. And that's the way our system of government is set up, and Ed Pastor truly understood that.
He's going to be missed, and his contributions to Arizona and the country as a whole are immense.
In Washington, Charlene Santiago, Cronkite News.
Arizona Governor Doug Ducey called Pastor a true public servant and ordered flags to be lowered to half staff statewide to recognize, quote, the long-lasting impact he will leave on Arizona. You can see our full multimedia report on the reaction to Pastor's passing and his legacy on cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
The campaign ads may be gone, but election season isn't over quite yet. The race for Phoenix mayor was pushed to a runoff election. Reporter Gabrielle Becerra spoke with the candidates about their continued campaigns.
In the November election, Kate Gallego received 45% of the vote, Daniel Valenzuela received 26%, Moses Sanchez received 19%, and Nicholas Sarwark got 10%. With no candidate receiving at least 50% of the vote, voters will now decide in March who the next mayor of Phoenix will be. There were 4, and now there are 2 candidates, Kate Gallego and Daniel Valenzuela, running against each other in the race for mayor of Phoenix.
We were honored that so many Phoenicians across the city, from Deer Valley to Ahwatukee, chose to support our campaign. But I know I need to earn every vote over the next 4 months.
We're very excited. March 12th is approaching. This is the special election to determine the next mayor of Phoenix, and I'm excited about it.
Like all races, this one will face challenges. Specifically, some people don't know there even is a runoff election.
We need to educate people a lot that there's an election coming up in March. A lot of people are so pleased that they finally got through this election cycle.
On the other hand, Valenzuela says these 4 months will give voters the time to look into their candidates after being buried under higher state and federal races on the November ballot.
What I'm looking forward to is on March 12th having a ballot specifically for this race, allowing people to focus solely on this race.
The campaigns are working to educate people about the election.
People won't be expecting come Valentine's Day to get a ballot in the mail. So we're going to hopefully convince people that that's what they need to do as they celebrate Valentine's Day, is continue to be involved in the future of Phoenix.
As well as the issues important to the city.
It's always been about creating and moving forward an economy and a community. It's been about jobs and keeping people safe, and of course advancing education.
One of these candidates will replace Thelda Williams, who became interim mayor after Greg Stanton's resignation to run for Congress. The runoff election will take place on March 12, 2019. Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
A community group filed a petition with the city of Phoenix today to put a break on the light rail extension into South Phoenix. They called it the Building a Better Phoenix initiative. Community leaders say a planned $1 billion extension of the light rail along South Central Avenue would hurt small businesses during the lengthy construction time and increase crime in culturally sensitive areas of South Phoenix. The petition says it makes no sense to spend 40% of the city's tax revenue to serve less than 1% of the population that use light rail.
President Donald Trump said earlier today that he's considering a government shutdown if Congress doesn't appropriate $5 billion for the border wall. While Senate Democrats and Republicans have agreed to $1.6 billion for the wall, Trump said in a Politico interview that he believes he'll defeat the Democrats on this issue. Citing the migrant caravan unrest, the president said the $5 billion would only be for the physical barrier, and he intends to request more funds for overall border security. Today, Democrats overwhelmingly nominated Nancy Pelosi to be the next Speaker of the House. She'll face a full House vote in January.
A former opioid sales executive at the Chandler company Insys pleaded guilty today in federal court for a conspiracy to bribe doctors to prescribe a highly addictive fentanyl spray. Alec Berlikoff has now agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in cases against other Insys executives, including billionaire founder John Kapoor. Kapoor and several other defendants are scheduled to go to trial in January. They're accused of paying kickbacks to doctors who are willing to write large numbers of prescriptions for a powerful fentanyl-based medication, which was meant for cancer patients with severe pain. The case stems from the Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich suing Insys for its prescription practices last year. And your beer on tap could soon cost a few more dollars.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how climate change is affecting the brewery business in the Valley.
Plus, one Gilbert company's innovative plan eliminates plastic waste in grocery stores, and why the possibility could become a reality in the future.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
A new study says that your craft beer bar tab may cost you more in the near future. The reason? Climate change. Sammy Gieber spoke to local breweries on how this is going to affect their businesses.
These businesses say climate change affects them more than the bigger companies. So if the production of barley, a key ingredient in beer, goes down, like this study in the journal Nature Plants indicates, they could be the ones that get hit the hardest.
How's the flight going? It's delicious.
There's nothing like spending your Friday night
You got it.
with a cold one in hand.
What was it, $6?
But what if that beer, instead of $6, cost $12?
I would drink half as much. Probably.
This is Wireman from Bamberg, Germany.
Barley, a main ingredient in beer, is sensitive to heat and drought. A study from the journal Nature Plants found that in the most severe climate events, beer prices on average would double.
Oops, me 14 total for you.
There's always concern, personally, of global warming and what that's going to do to, the future of our business and our city.
Poole sees the study as a worst-case scenario, but says that if global warming does bring down barley yields, it will affect businesses like his craft brewery, Wren House, the most.
We're more price sensitive. We're more sensitive to delays in product, and that's usually where we see it. They can take care of their bigger customers before they take care of us.
So any little change affects us a lot.
Derek Osborne from Pedal House has been brewing for 22 years. He's already seen temperatures and drought affect prices.
We've had some really horrific years. We've had some really good years. And you try and just maximize on the good years and make it last.
Barley
It's where you're getting most of the flavor and the body of the beer.
It costs a lot to get these microbreweries up and running. One of these tanks costs 20 grand alone, and at Wren House, there's at least 7 of them.
You know, we haven't taken a dime out of the business yet. We're 4 years in.
So a rise in any ingredient can affect small businesses, but for Pool, it's all worth it.
Yeah, just a little splash.
Because even if the price goes up,
another great beer experience,
it's going to take a lot more to get the frosty mug out of these customers' hands.
You guys doing all right?
The Arizona Craft Brewers Guild told me that local businesses are already implementing ways to do more with less and to help conserve ingredients. They believe that as the yields go down, farming methods and advancing technology will help absorb the impact of climate change. In the broadcast center, Sammy Giebers, Cronkite News.
From meat trays to mac and cheese cups, single-use plastics are all over the grocery store. One Gilbert-based company wants to eliminate all of them and replace them with a biodegradable and compostable solution. Even though the goal is lofty, experts say it's not out of the picture.
We had the vision that the whole world was going to demand alternatives to plastic.
So Troy Swope and his business partners got to work creating the Gilbert-based company Footprint with one goal.
We are going to eliminate single-use plastic.
To do that, Swope and his team are making biodegradable and compostable food packaging products for customers like Walmart and Costco. Bales of corrugated paper, you might know it better as cardboard, are the first step of the process. And after going through 338-degree heat in the machines behind me, a finished bowl like this one is ready for distribution. The products are made from a slurry that's blended up in different stages. Inside the slurry, different coatings are added to create barriers against moisture, oxygen, and oil. The company started in Arizona in 2012, but just this year began producing paper straws. They're working to find the perfect paper and adhesive combination to make a long-lasting straw.
The most difficult part is the customers want biodegradability and compostability, yet they still want the product to behave like plastic.
The science is important, but so is the company's environmental impact. They say CO2 emissions are reduced 40 to 60% depending on the type of plastic they're trying to replace. And energy use drops by up to 50%.
You start looking at plastic's true cost, like the cost to haul it away and store it for 100 and something years, then we're way lower cost than the plastic.
Mick Dalrymple manages sustainability initiatives for Arizona State University. He recently toured the company and says they have a big goal, but it's not impossible.
I think Footprint's biggest challenge is actually with trying to decide which sectors to go after first. I don't think that their product is necessarily going to get rid of every single-use plastic, but it's pretty versatile from what I saw.
He says the company has the potential to make a worldwide impact.
It's a matter of how fast can they scale up, how can they fend off any competitors, and then also things like how can they avoid manufacturers that want to make exclusives with them.
In just 6 years, Footprint has invented more than 400 items. At least 36 of those items, like mushroom containers for produce, now have a patent.
We want you to walk into a grocery store today and you see all the plastic, and in 5 years you're going to walk into that grocery store and go, we changed this whole store. The bakery, the meat trays, the yogurt containers, right? The coffee lid on the way out, we're going to transform that grocery store. And it's going to happen fast.
Troy Swope told us the company does have competitors like Be Green in South Carolina, but most of these companies focus on simple solutions like takeout containers. Footprint is focused on more advanced technologies like frozen food containers or meat trays. The company plans to ramp up production in the U.S. and expand into Mexico and Europe over the next few years. It's a different spin on your traditional baseball game.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how Arizona baseball players formed an independent league and compete with rules more than 150 years old.
And I'm tracking the storm system as it moves into the area, bringing cooler air along with it. Coming up, I'll tell you which day this weekend we can expect temperatures to be 10 degrees below average.
With pitch clocks and replays, baseball is being played differently than it ever has been before. Cronkite News reporter Matt Lively set out to see the game in its original form.
If you're not 158 years old, well, you've probably never seen baseball like this before. These guys play America's pastime as it was played in the 1860s.
Got the high socks, yeah, the blouse pants. And you're talking to old timers about an old timers game, so we had to come see.
And what they saw is a little bit different than what the modern baseball fan is used to. This is an out, that pitch isn't a ball, and the bell is the only way to score a run.
Played in a way that nobody's really ever played in 100 years.
Jacob Pomranke and his fellow players belong to the Arizona Territories Vintage Baseball League. Made up of 8 teams throughout the state, they've been stuck in the 1860s for nearly a decade. Here, there are no called balls and strikes. Pitches must be thrown underhand, and balls caught on one bounce are outs.
These guys play with a regular bat and a little bit of a different ball, but the biggest change, no gloves.
Takes a little bit of getting used to, and of course line drives can break some fingers, and you gotta judge for yourself whether you're going to try to catch a hard hit ball.
Whether it's a game for hitters and pitchers or strikers and hurlers, this league is for lovers of baseball.
It's fun to get out there, wear some cool uniforms, and play by a rule set that, again, nobody's seen for over a century.
In Phoenix, Matt Lively, Cronkite News.
The league runs from November to April, and the last game will be played at Warren Ballpark in Bisbee, which was built in 1909. Back here in Phoenix, it's been sunny and 70 degrees all week long.
Haley, can we expect any changes for our next weekend?
Actually, there are some big changes coming this weekend. As of today, we have been 36 days in a row without any rain at all. That's all going to change starting tomorrow night. If you take a look at the futurecast, you can see these storms starting to move into the state, bringing with it clouds and lots of rain. Here in the valley, we can expect to see an accumulation of about 1/10 of an inch of rain, while up in the high country, there is a lot of snow moving into the area. They can expect about 3 to 4 inches of snow up there as well. Again, that moisture pushing all of our dry air out of the region, which is in turn going to cool down our temperatures for the next few days. We're going to top out around 71 here in Phoenix tomorrow, 46 up in Flagstaff, 51 in the Grand Canyon. Tomorrow night is when those temperatures are going to cool down a lot. 49 is going to be our low tomorrow night, and check out these 7-day forecasts. 60 starting on Friday, and even a 59-degree high for our temperatures on Monday. Lows in those 40s, even almost reaching as low as 30 for the beginning of next week. In the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Haley Brandt.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we speak to a dog owner who was reunited with his missing pet after 5 years. Where the dog was found and how Maricopa County Animal Care used microchip technology to return it to its home.
Join us each week on Catalyst, the show that explores new advancements, technologies, and innovations at Arizona State University that are shaping the future for tomorrow and beyond. Catalyst, Wednesdays at 9, right here on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
A dog found wandering in Laveen is now back home with her family, but the journey took 5 years. Cronkite News reporter John Cardinelli has this amazing reunion.
The reunion is all thanks to a device that's smaller than a grain of rice, and this story has an ironic twist. Dogs who are lost or abandoned end up here at one of the Maricopa County Animal Care and Control shelters, and that's where one of the workers, Philip Fateau, fell in love with his dog Chanel while he was at work.
I took her home approximately about 8 years ago, and she was part of the family. The kids loved her. She was always a good dog, well-mannered, well, socialized, did well with other dogs, other pets. She was perfect.
Fateau would often take Chanel to his second job as a roadside serviceman.
The one night I didn't take her, I think because I wasn't using my normal truck, so I didn't have room for her in the truck. she went missing that night. So when I came back from doing a few calls, that's when I noticed she was missing. And I immediately started going up and down the streets, yelling her name, looking at people's yards. Next morning, I made lost flyers. I posted her on social media.
And after 2 years of searching for his dog, Fatou had lost hope.
Just assuming the worst, that she must have got hit by a car or she had passed away some other way, and so.
But all of that changed last Friday. After 5 years of being missing, Fatou received a phone call from Animal Lovers of Laveen saying his dog had been found.
Just in shock. I was in disbelief. I could not believe that after 5 years, I was getting her back. And I told my kids were there, my daughters were there, and they're like, Dad, was this Chanel? Is it Chanel? Because they heard me talking about it on the phone. I go, yes. It's like, are we going to get her? And I said, yeah, we'll finish dinner when we get back. Let's go get her right now.
Chanel had been identified because of a microchip implanted when he adopted her.
A simple passing of the device over the back, and it'll pick up the chip. It gives you a number. With that number, it's linked to the owner's information. So with that owner's information, we'll have the address, name, and phone number. And they could, that way the dog can get back to the proper owner.
Practicing what he preaches at the shelter led to this holiday miracle.
It's a great Christmas present for the family, for the kids. We're just going to keep her as long as she wants to stay with us and she's healthy, and that's the main thing, is her well-being.
Fatou says this is a prime example of why it's so important for owners to microchip their pets. But you need to make sure your information is up to date with the company providing the chip. In the broadcast center, John Cardinelli, Cronkite News.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.